science itself. Welcome to our channel, African History. For thousands of years, humanity has looked to the skies in wonder. We've found gods and heroes in the constellations, told stories in the shimmering starlight, and built monuments to track the silent, eternal dance of the sun, moon, and stars. We've used their predictable cycles to plant our crops, to mark our festivals, and to order our entire world. When we think of the ancient masters of this celestial science, our minds often travel to familiar places. We picture the Druids at Stonehenge, the builders of the Great Pyramids at Giza, or the scribes of Babylon, charting the heavens on clay tablets. These cultures have rightly earned their place in history as pioneers of astronomy. But what if a crucial chapter of this story has been overlooked? What if we've been looking in the wrong direction all this time? Let's travel south of ancient Egypt, following the life-giving artery of the Nile as it winds deep into the heart of Africa. Here, in the lands we now call Sudan, flourished a civilization of immense power, wealth, and sophistication. The Kingdom of Kush, also known as ancient Nubia. For too long, the Kushites have been cast in the long shadow of their northern neighbors, the Egyptians. History has often painted them as mere rivals, trading partners, or even subjects. But recent discoveries are shattering these old narratives, unearthing a revolutionary truth that promises to rewrite the history of science itself. The evidence is mounting, and it's compelling. The Nubians were not just followers, they were pioneers. They were independent, visionary astronomers in their own right. Imagine this. Without a single telescope, without the complex instruments of modern science, the astronomers of Kush achieved a level of precision in mapping the cosmos that is simply breathtaking. Their understanding of celestial mechanics was so advanced that it rivals, and in some cases may even surpass, that of any other ancient civilization. They didn't just observe the sky, they integrated it into every aspect of their lives. They built incredible observatories, not in grand, standalone structures, but carved directly into their sacred mountains, turning the very landscape into a tool for cosmic exploration. Their iconic pyramids, smaller and steeper than their Egyptian counterparts, were not just tombs for their kings and queens. They were celestial clocks, with shafts and entrances meticulously aligned to capture the light of specific stars, like the brilliant star Sirius. At crucial moments of the year, they wove a profound understanding of heavenly rhythms into the very fabric of their society, from their religious rituals to their urban planning. This is the story of a forgotten sky, a cosmic map drawn not on fragile parchment, but etched in stone, aligned in the desert sand, and preserved in the collective genius of a remarkable people. How did they achieve such astonishing accuracy? What sophisticated methods did they develop to track lunar cycles, predict eclipses, and create a calendar so precise it governed their entire civilization? And what can their overlooked legacy teach us about the true, diverse origins of human innovation and scientific thought? Prepare to have your understanding of ancient history challenged. Get ready to journey back in time and meet the true masters of the ancient sky. To truly appreciate the genius of Nubian astronomy, we first have to understand the world they lived in. The Kingdom of Kush was not a monolith. It was a dynamic civilization that lasted for over 3,000 years, with its capital moving between cities like Kerma and Napata and the legendary This was a land of incredible natural wealth. Gold from the Nubian deserts was so abundant that pharaohs referred to it as the land of gold. But its true wealth lay in its strategic position as a crossroads of cultures, connecting sub-Saharan Africa with the Mediterranean world. This constant flow of goods, ideas, and people created a vibrant, cosmopolitan society. The Nubians developed their own unique writing system, the Moritic script, which we are still working to fully decipher. They worshipped their own pantheon of gods, like the lion-headed deity Ape, while also integrating Egyptian gods, like Ammon, into their belief system, often reinterpreting them through their own cultural lens. Their society was a complex tapestry of kings, queens, priests, artisans, and warriors. And at the heart of it all, guiding their decisions and shaping their worldview, was the sky. For the Nubians, the cosmos was not a distant, abstract realm. It was an active, living force that directly influenced life on Earth. The annual flooding of the Nile, the lifeblood of their civilization, was heralded by the heliacal rising of Sirius the Star Est, first appearance on the eastern horizon just before sunrise. This event marked the beginning of their new year and the start of the agricultural season. Accurately predicting this moment was not just a matter of religious importance, it was a matter of survival. This practical necessity was the seed from which their sophisticated astronomical science grew. The priests and priestesses of Kush were not just spiritual leaders. They were the guardians of this sacred celestial knowledge. They were the scientists of their day. One of the most powerful pieces of evidence for their astronomical prowess lies hidden in plain sight. On a sacred mountain known as Jebel Barkel, this massive sandstone butte, rising dramatically from the desert floor, was considered the holy mountain by the Nubians. They believed it to be the birthplace of the god Amen and the southern home of the gods. But it was more than just a place of worship. At its base, they built a complex of temples, and archaeological investigations have revealed that these temples were meticulously aligned with celestial events. For example, the main temple of Amen was designed so that on the winter solstice, the shortest day of the year, the rising sun would illuminate a specific chamber deep within the sanctuary. Even more incredibly, the very pinnacle of Jebel Barkal features a natural rock spire that, when viewed from a specific temple at a certain time of year, appears to wear the sun as a crown, perfectly silhouetted against the solar disk. This alignment transformed the mountain itself into a massive gnomon, a kind of giant sundial, allowing the priests to track the sun's journey across the sky and pinpoint the solstices with remarkable accuracy. This wasn't accidental. This was intentional, a result of generations of careful observation, mathematical calculation, and brilliant architectural engineering. They turned a mountain into an astronomical instrument. And then there are the pyramids. While smaller than their Egyptian counterparts, the pyramids of Meru are no less impressive, and in many ways, they are more revealing of the Nubian cosmic view. Over 200 of them clustered together in the desert, their steep sides angling sharply towards the sky. For years, archaeologists assumed they were simply royal tombs, but new analysis, combining satellite imagery with archaeological data, has revealed a stunning pattern. Many of these pyramids are aligned not just to the cardinal directions, but to specific stars and constellations. Entrances and internal passages were designed to channel the light of stars like Sirius and constellations like Orion into the burial chambers at specific times of the night or year. This suggests that the pyramids were not just final resting places, they were resurrection machines, portals designed to guide the soul of the deceased king or queen back to the stars from whence they came. The Nubian afterlife was intimately connected to the celestial realm. They believed their rulers would become stars, joining the eternal, unchanging constellations in the northern sky. The pyramids were therefore built as star maps in stone, physical guides for the soul's cosmic journey. This fusion of architecture, religion, and astronomy is a hallmark of Nubian genius, a testament to a worldview where heaven and earth were inextricably linked. So how did they do it? How did they achieve this precision without the tools we consider essential for astronomy? The answer lies in simple, yet ingenious methods, honed over centuries. They used tools like the merket, an instrument consisting of a plumb bob and a sighting stick, to create perfectly straight lines and measure angles against the horizon. By using pairs of merkets, they could establish a precise north-south meridian line by observing the circumpolar stars. The stars that never set. Once this fundamental line was established, all other celestial alignments could be calculated from it. They used water clocks to measure time during the night and carefully constructed sundials to track the sun's shadow during the day. But their greatest instrument was their patience. Ancient astronomy was a science of long-term observation. Priests would spend their entire lives and pass that knowledge down through generations, meticulously recording the rising and setting points of stars, the phases of the moon, and the subtle shifts in the sun's path throughout the year. These records, kept over decades and even centuries, allowed them to detect patterns and cycles that are invisible to a casual observer. They were able to calculate the length of the solar year with an accuracy that was not surpassed in Europe until the Renaissance. They developed complex calendars that intercalated lunar and solar cycles, ensuring their festivals and agricultural activities remained synchronized with the heavens. It was a science built on dedication, discipline, and a deep, multi-generational reverence for the order of the cosmos. The story of Nubian astronomy is a powerful reminder that history is not a single, linear narrative. For centuries, the Eurocentric view of history placed the origins of science squarely in Greece and the Near East. The incredible achievements of civilizations like Kush were ignored, dismissed, or wrongly attributed to Egyptian influence. But the stones of Jebel Barkal and the pyramids of Meru tell a different story. They speak of an independent African tradition of scientific inquiry that was rich, sophisticated, and ancient. Recognizing the contributions of the Nubians doesn't diminish the achievements of other cultures. It enriches our understanding of the human story. It shows that the spark of scientific curiosity, desire to understand our place in the universe, is a universal human trait, one that blossomed in diverse ways all across the ancient world. The legacy of Kush challenges us to look beyond the familiar narratives and to seek out the forgotten histories that lie waiting to be discovered. It reminds us that innovation can arise from anywhere and that genius wears many faces. The sky that the Nubians mapped with such care is the same sky we look up at today. Their sun is our sun. Their stars are our stars. By unearthing their story, we are not just recovering a lost chapter of African history, we are recovering a vital piece of our shared human heritage. We are learning that the quest to understand the cosmos is one of the oldest and most profound adventures we have ever embarked upon. Part 1. The Forgotten SKY. The Nubian Cosmic Map. When we gaze up at the night sky, we often see it through the lens of Greek myths or Roman names. But what if I told you there's another cosmic map? An ancient and powerful one that has been largely forgotten. Today, we begin a journey to uncover the celestial wisdom of a civilization that thrived along the Nile for millennia. The Kingdom of Kush, better known as Nubia. To understand how the Nubians saw the stars, we first have to understand who they were. And let us be clear from the start. This was not some backwater province or a mere offshoot of ancient Egypt. Nubia was a distinct, sophisticated, an incredibly powerful African kingdom. It was a land of warriors, merchants, and builders, with its own unique languages, its own vibrant traditions, and its own deep-rooted spiritual beliefs that were intimately connected to the cosmos. For thousands of years, the relationship between Nubia and Egypt was a complex dance of trade, cultural exchange, and conflict. They were rivals, they were allies, and at times, they were one. Think about this. For a glorious period, the Nubian kings became the pharaohs of Egypt, ruling as the celebrated 25th dynasty. These were the so-called Black Pharaohs, men like Pi and Taharq, who saw themselves as restorers of traditional Egyptian values, all while bringing their own Nubian identity to the throne. They didn't just conquer Egypt, they revitalized it, building temples and pyramids from the delta all the way south into their homeland in what is now Sudan. This history is crucial. It means the Nubians weren't just passively receiving astronomical knowledge from their northern neighbors. They were active participants, contributors, and innovators. Their worldview was shaped by the unique geography of their homeland, the powerful cataracts of the Nile, the vast deserts, and a sky that, being further south, offered a slightly different celestial theater than the one seen from Memphis or Thebes. The stars and the sun were not just abstract concepts for the Nubians. They were fundamental forces that governed everything. The annual flooding of the Nile, the lifeblood of their civilization, was heralded by the rising of specific stars. The orientation of their pyramids, particularly the steep, elegant structures at Meru, shows a profound understanding of celestial alignments. These weren't just tombs, they were machines of resurrection, angled precisely to capture the starlight and guide the souls of their kings and queens, their candates, into the eternal afterlife. We find clues etched in stone and painted on pottery. Temple walls at sites like Jebel Barkal, a sacred mountain believed to be the dwelling place of the god Amun, are aligned to the solstice sun. These alignments weren't accidental. They were deliberate acts of cosmic architecture, designed to create powerful moments when the divine and the earthly would intersect, when light would flood a dark sanctuary and signal a sacred time of year. Their connection to the sky was also deeply personal. While the Egyptians had a complex pantheon, the Nubians placed a special emphasis on the god Amun, often depicted with the head of a ram. For them, Amun was not just a state deity, but a creator god whose power was manifest in the sun. The sun's daily journey across the sky and its nightly travel through the underworld was a cycle of death and rebirth that mirrored their own existence. This belief system, this cosmic map, gave them a sense of order and purpose in a world that could often be unpredictable. So, as we prepare to dive deeper into the specifics of their star charts and celestial deities, remember this: Nubian astronomy is the story of a resilient and brilliant people. It's a story written not just in hieroglyphs, but in the very alignment of their cities, the angle of their pyramids, and the enduring legacy of a kingdom that knew its place, not just on the Nile, but among the stars. This is just the beginning of our exploration into their forgotten sky. Thank you so much for joining me on this first step. If you're as fascinated by this lost history as I am, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell, because in our next part we'll be decoding the secrets of the Meru pyramids and their connection to the heavens. Say you 10. Before the pyramids of Giza pierced the sky, before the Roman Empire stretched its hand across the known world, another great civilization thrived along the banks of the Nile. For over 2,000 years, from the opulent Kerma culture to the mighty Naputan and Meroitic empires, Nubian civilization carved its legacy into the very heart of Africa. While we often hear about their northern neighbors in Egypt, the Nubians developed a rich, complex society with a unique understanding of the universe. Their world was one of stark contrasts and profound beauty. Imagine the landscape: a relentless, life-giving sun blazing overhead during the day, and at night, a sky so clear the Milky Way looked like a river of diamonds. This wasn't just a backdrop, it was their canvas. The predictable, annual flooding of the Nile River was the lifeblood of their society, a rhythm that dictated planting, harvesting, and survival itself. In this environment, the sky was not a distant, abstract wonder. It was a clock, a calendar, and a guide, tracking the cycles of the sun, moon, and stars. It wasn't a matter of philosophical curiosity, it was a fundamental tool for existence. The ancient Nubians looked to the heavens to anticipate the Nile's flood, to determine the perfect time to sow their fields, and to mark their sacred festivals. The stars told them when to prepare and when to celebrate. The sun's path across the sky wasn't just the passing of a day. It was a divine journey, a powerful narrative that shaped their architecture and their beliefs. They built temples and pyramids aligned with celestial events, turning stone and sand into giant astronomical instruments. Their priests and astronomers were guardians of this sacred knowledge, passing it down through generations, ensuring the harmony between the people on the land and the gods in the sky. But how did they do it? What secrets did they uncover in the desert night? They observed the heliacal rising of certain stars, the moment a star first becomes visible above the eastern horizon just before sunrise after a period of being hidden by the sun's glare. This event, particularly with a star like Sirius, was a powerful sign that the Nile's inundation was near. They charted the moon's phases to organize their months and developed sophisticated signs, like the one discovered at the Meroitic site of Khazar Ibrim, to precisely measure the hours of the day. This wasn't primitive stargazing. This was a systematic science, born from necessity and refined over centuries of careful observation. This deep connection to the cosmos was woven into every aspect of their culture. Their gods and goddesses were celestial beings. The sun god Ra, also revered in Nubia, sailed his barge across the sky each day, and the sky goddess Nut arched her body over the earth, adorned with stars. Their tombs were not just final resting places, but portals designed to guide the soul of the deceased on its own journey through the celestial afterlife. The patterns they saw in the sky were reflected in the patterns of their lives, creating a powerful synergy between the macrocosm of the universe and the microcosm of human society. As we continue to uncover the ruins of their cities and decipher their inscriptions, we are just beginning to understand the depth of Nubia's astronomical legacy. This was a civilization that didn't just live under the stars. They lived with them. They read the sky like a sacred text, a map that guided them through the challenges of their world and connected them to the divine. This is just the beginning of our journey into their world. Join us next time as we explore the incredible celestial alignments of Nubian temples and pyramids, and uncover more secrets of this forgotten sky. Thanks for watching. And don't forget to subscribe for more journeys into the past. Imagine, for a moment, you're standing under an endless, inky black sky, untouched by the glow of modern cities. The only light comes from a billion stars, a brilliant, shimmering river flowing across the heavens. This was the world of the ancient Nubians. Thousands of years ago, long before the invention of telescopes, GPS, or even a simple compass, the people of the Nile Valley looked up at this same sky and saw not chaos, but order. They saw a map, a clock, and a calendar, all woven into the cosmic tapestry above. This is the story of their forgotten sky, the story of the Nubian cosmic map. How could they possibly achieve this? Their primary instrument was something we all possess, but they had refined to an extraordinary degree: the unaided human eye. But this wasn't just casual stargazing. It was a skill, a science, passed down and perfected over countless generations. Entire families, entire lineages of skywatchers would dedicate their lives to observing the heavens. Their observatory wasn't a grand building with a domed roof. It was the entire horizon, a 360-degree stage where the celestial drama unfolded night after night, year after year. Their challenge was monumental. Think about it. They had to detect the most subtle patterns in a seemingly random scattering of lights. They had to notice the slight, almost imperceptible, annual shift in where a particular star would rise from the eastern horizon or dip below the western one. This wasn't just a one-time observation. To be useful, it had to be predictable. They needed to cement these observations into a reliable, reproducible system. A system that could tell them when to plant their crops, when the Nile would flood its banks, bringing life-giving silt, and when to hold their most sacred ceremonies. This required immense patience and meticulous record-keeping, likely through oral traditions and symbolic representations. Long before written language was common, they would mark specific points on the horizon: a distant mountain peak, a uniquely shaped rock, or a man-made marker. These points became the notches on their grand celestial clock. By noting that the star we call Sirius, for example, always rose just before the sun, at a specific point on the horizon, right before the annual flood, they connected their lives on Earth directly to the movements in the heavens. This wasn't astrology. It was a practical, life-sustaining science. They were creating a system from scratch, a system of such precision that it governed their entire civilization. They weren't just looking at individual stars. They were understanding the relationships between them. They saw constellations, not just as pictures, but as signposts in time. The appearance of one group of stars would signal the end of a season, while the disappearance of another would mark the beginning of a new one. This deep, intimate knowledge of the sky was the bedrock of their society. It was their technology, their guide, their connection to the divine. It was a cosmic map drawn not on parchment, but in the collective memory and oral traditions of a people who lived and breathed by the rhythm of the stars. And this is just the beginning of our journey into their world. Now, imagine doing that thousands of years ago, without telescopes, without glass lenses, and mapping the heavens with an accuracy that defies our modern understanding. This isn't science fiction. It's the lost history of ancient Nubia. For centuries, we've marveled at their pyramids and temples, but we've overlooked their greatest achievement: a cosmic map etched, not onto papyrus, but into the very landscape of their kingdom. How did they do it? How did a civilization from the Bronze Age create such a detailed and sophisticated understanding of the cosmos? The mystery is profound. In an age before even the most basic optical tools, their celestial charts were startlingly precise. They knew the cycles of stars, the paths of planets, and the timing of cosmic events with a level of detail that should have been impossible. For a long time, this question stumped archaeologists and astronomers alike. Was it lost technology? Extraterrestrial help? The theories were wild, but the truth is far more ingenious and, frankly, more human. The answer isn't a single, magical object. It's not about a forgotten lens or a secret device. Instead, it was a system, a complex and beautiful interplay between engineering, astronomy, and faith. It all started with monumental stone markers. Think of them like a giant, permanent survey kit. These massive stones, some weighing several tons, were strategically placed across the vast desert. They weren't random. Each one was carefully positioned to align with specific celestial bodies at specific times of the year, like the rising of Sirius or the solstice sun. They formed a network of permanent sightlines, turning the entire Nubian landscape into a celestial observatory. But these markers were just one piece of the puzzle. The locations themselves were chosen with incredible care. The Nubians sought out sacred sites, often high plateaus or secluded desert valleys, prized for their pristine, unobstructed horizons. Far from the light pollution of settlements, the air was crystal clear, and the stars blazed with an intensity we can barely imagine today. These places became their windows to the universe. Priests and astronomers would make pilgrimages to these sites, using the stone markers to track, record, and predict the movements of the heavens. It was a ritual, a science, and a sacred duty all rolled into one. This dedication went beyond mere observation. It was a cultural obsession. The Nubians believed that the order of the heavens, Mu'at, had to be reflected on earth to ensure prosperity, stability, and the favor of the gods. Their kings weren't just rulers. They were the earthly guarantors of cosmic balance. The layout of their cities, the orientation of their temples, even the timing of their agricultural cycles were all dictated by the stars. Building a temple aligned with the solstice wasn't just an architectural choice. It was a way of physically anchoring the celestial order to the terrestrial world. This cosmic map wasn't just for navigation. It was the blueprint for their entire society. So, the forgotten sky of Nubia was never truly forgotten. It was lived in, breathed, and built into the very fabric of their world. They didn't need telescopes, because their entire kingdom was a telescope. They read the stars, not through glass, but through stone, sand, and sacred geometry. What they created was a testament to human ingenuity, a powerful reminder that our connection to the cosmos is as old as civilization itself. It has a story of how an ancient people managed to touch the stars without ever leaving the ground. This is just the beginning of our journey into the Nubian cosmic map. There is so much more to uncover about their specific alignments and the knowledge they possessed. This was Nubia, a kingdom of gold, of powerful pharaohs, and of a deep spiritual connection to the cosmos. For thousands of years, their story was overshadowed, their voice almost lost to the sands of time. But the Nubians left us a map, not one drawn on papyrus, but etched into the very fabric of their world. Their legacy whispers to us from the weathered faces of rock art, from the intricate hieroglyphs on temple inscriptions, and in the silent, precise alignment of their greatest structures. They built their world in harmony with the heavens, orienting pyramids and sacred sites to the rising and setting of specific stars. This celestial blueprint is a puzzle we are only now beginning to solve. Each discovery, each newly translated text, each archaeological find adds another piece to this vast cosmic map. What did the stars mean to the Nubian people? How did their understanding of the universe shape their beliefs, their rituals, and their daily lives? The answers lie scattered across the deserts of modern-day Sudan, waiting to be rediscovered. We can see hints of it in the representation of their gods. Amen, often depicted with the head of a ram, was tied to the constellation we know as Aries. The goddess Hathor, with her bovine features, was linked to the Pleiades star cluster, a celestial marker whose appearance signaled the annual flooding of the Nile, the lifeblood of their civilization. This wasn't just mythology, it was a practical, living science. The Nubian skywatchers were brilliant astronomers. They tracked the movements of the sun, moon, and stars with incredible precision. This knowledge allowed them to create accurate calendars, to predict seasons for planting and harvesting, and to navigate the vast, featureless desert. Their temples were more than just places of worship. They were astronomical observatories, designed to capture the first rays of the solstice sun or the light of a specific star on a holy day. The great temple at Jebel Barkal, their most sacred mountain, is a perfect example. It's aligned with the setting sun on the winter solstice, an event that would have held immense religious significance. But why did this sophisticated understanding of the cosmos fade from our collective memory? The history of Nubia is one of constant struggle and resilience. They were conquered by Egyptians, then by Assyrians, Persians, Greeks, and Romans. Each new power brought its own culture, its own gods, and its own way of seeing the world. The Nubian cosmic map was slowly painted over, layer by layer. Their temples were repurposed, their traditions were absorbed, and their language was eventually replaced. The Christian and later Islamic eras brought further transformations, burying the ancient stellar religion under new faiths. What was once the central pillar of their society became a collection of forgotten folklore. But the story is not over. Today, a new generation of archaeologists, astronomers, and historians are piecing together this forgotten sky, using satellite imagery, archaeoastronomy software, and good old-fashioned excavation. They are rediscovering the celestial alignments of Nubian sites. They're decoding the astronomical symbols hidden in plain sight on temple walls and painted pottery. Each alignment confirmed, each symbol deciphered, is a victory against the silence of history. We are learning that the Nubians didn't just look at the stars, they lived by them. Their universe was an ordered, sacred space, and they saw themselves as an integral part of its grand design. To truly understand this lost world, we must learn to see the sky through their eyes. And to do that, we must journey to their sacred heartlands, to the temples and tombs that still stand as silent witnesses to a forgotten cosmic wisdom. Join us in part 2, as we travel to the sacred mountain of Jebel Barkal and the royal necropolis of Meru, to uncover the secrets of the Nubian star. Today, our journey takes us deep into the heart of ancient Nubia, to the spiritual nucleus of the Napatan kingdom. Imagine a bustling city, a vibrant center of power and faith, nestled along the fertile banks of the Nile, and towering over it all, a singular, majestic, flat-topped mountain. To the ancient Nubians, Jebel Barkal was far more than just a striking geological feature. They saw it as the very dwelling place of their supreme deity, the powerful state god Amen. This sacred mountain was the nexus of their spiritual world, a place where the earthly and the divine converged. Temples and pyramids clustered at its base, testament to centuries of devotion and royal power. It was here, at the foot of Amen's sacred home, that kings were crowned and buried, their lives and afterlives inextricably linked to this holy site. But Jebel Barkal held another, equally profound significance. From an astronomical perspective, it was a perfect, natural observatory. Its flat summit provided an unobstructed, 360-degree view of the heavens. The sharp, clean lines of its silhouette against the sky created a natural horizon, a perfect tool for marking celestial events. The ancient priests and astronomers who ascended this mountain weren't just closer to their god, they were also closer to the cosmos. They could track the movements of the sun, the moon, and the stars with remarkable precision. Imagine a priest astronomer standing atop Jebel Barkal as dawn breaks. As the sun appears, its first rays align perfectly with a specific temple or a distant landmark on a particular day of the year, like the winter solstice. This wasn't a coincidence. The very layout of the temples and structures around Jebel Barkal was a celestial map, a sacred landscape designed to mirror the heavens. For example, the great temple of Amen at the foot of the mountain was precisely oriented to align with the sunrise on the Egyptian New Year's Day. This solar alignment wasn't just for show, it was fundamental to their calendar, their agriculture, and their religious festivals. The predictable cycles of the sun governed the flooding of the Nile, which was the lifeblood of their civilization. By observing these celestial clocks, the Nubians could anticipate the seasons, plan their planting and harvesting, and scheduled their most important religious ceremonies. The sky was their guide, and Jebel Barkal was their window to understanding it. And it wasn't just the sun. The pinnacle of Jebel Barkal itself, a massive, freestanding spire of rock, played a crucial role. When viewed from certain temples, this spire would appear to be wearing the crescent moon like a crown or have the sun resting on its peak at key moments. This spectacular natural hierophany, or manifestation of the divine, would have been seen as a powerful sign from Amen himself, reaffirming the sanctity of the mountain and the legitimacy of the king. This intricate dance between architecture, landscape, and astronomy reveals the incredible sophistication of the Napatan civilization. They didn't just build temples, they built cosmic engines, places where heaven and earth were in constant dialogue. Jebel Barkal was not just a mountain, it was a celestial instrument, a divinic compass, and the spiritual anchor of an entire kingdom. It shows us that for the ancient Nubians, science and religion were not separate domains. Instead, they were two sides of the same coin, a unified quest to understand their place in the universe. The stars weren't just distant points of light, they were messages from the gods, and Jebel Barkel was the key to decoding them. It turns out, their architectural genius wasn't just about building impressive structures. It was deeply connected to the stars. Imagine standing at the base of the great Temple of Ammon, feeling the desert wind. You might think you're just looking at a magnificent ruin, but astronomers had found something truly mind-blowing. The entire axis of this temple, its very foundation, is precisely aligned with the rising of a very important star. Which star? All signs point to Sirius, the brightest star in our night sky. To the ancient Egyptians, this star was known as Sothis, and its annual appearance signaled the life-giving flood of the Nile. It's plausible that the Nubians had their own name for it, perhaps Meroe, and that it held similar, vital significance for their calendar and agricultural cycles. This wasn't just a casual observation. It was a cornerstone of their society, linking their earthly existence to the cosmic clockwork above. But how did they achieve such incredible precision without modern tools? The answer lies in the stunning natural landscape of Jebel Barkel itself. The mountain provided a perfect, unchanging eastern horizon. It was a natural foresight, a fixed point against which the priests and astronomers could track the star-est journey through the year. Day after day, year after year, they would watch as Sirius moved across the sky, noting its position relative to the sacred mountain. This alignment wasn't accidental. It was a deliberate, sophisticated system of observation. The temple and the mountain worked together as a massive celestial instrument. By marking where Sirius rose along the horizon of Jebel Barkel, they could predict the seasons, plan their harvests, and time their most important religious festivals. The Great Temple wasn't just a place of worship. It was a functioning observatory, a testament to their deep understanding of the cosmos. This connection between the sacred mountain and the stars adds another layer to the story of Jebel Barkel. It wasn't just the earthly home of the god Ammon. It was a gateway to the heavens. The peak of the mountain served as a natural marker, a cosmic signpost that guided the Nubian kings and their people. They saw the universe as an ordered, predictable place, and they built their world to reflect that divine order. The precision of the temple's alignment with Sirius tells us that the Nubians were not just passive observers of the night sky. They were active participants, engaging with the cosmos in a way that shaped their culture, their religion, and their daily lives. They were brilliant engineers, mathematicians, and astronomers who encoded their knowledge into the very stones of their temples. By understanding these celestial clues, we gain a new appreciation for the intellectual achievements of the Nubian civilization. They were living in the shadow of Egypt. They were a powerhouse of innovation and knowledge in their own right, with a unique and profound relationship with the universe. Thank you for joining me as we've decoded these ancient celestial mysteries. The story of Nubia is written not just in stone, but in the stars themselves. Professor Benoshik described Jebel Barkel as flat-topped mountain rising dramatically from the desert floor. This isn't just any mountain. It's a masterpiece of sacred geography. Think of it as a giant, natural sundial, or gnomon, gifted by the earth itself. The ancient Nubians didn't just see a rock formation. They saw a divine instrument, a direct connection between the heavens and the earth. And they were right. The magic truly happens during the solstices. Picture the summer solstice, the longest day of the year. As the sun journeys across the sky, its light interacts with Jebel Barkel in a breathtaking display. Shadows lengthen and shorten, creating a celestial clockwork performance on the mountain's cliffs. The winter solstice would have been equally profound, a signal of the sun's return and the promise of new life. This interplay of light and shadow wasn't just a pretty sight, it was a divine spectacle, a message from the gods. This is where the genius of Nubian architecture comes into play. The temples built around Jebel Barkel, like the great Temple of Ammon, aren't just randomly placed. They aren't even just oriented toward the mountain. They are meticulously oriented with it. Their doorways, halls, and sanctuaries are precisely aligned to capture these specific celestial events. Let's walk through it. On a significant day, like the New Year festival, which coincided with the rising of the star Sirius, the first rays of dawn wouldn't just illuminate the landscape. They would travel in a perfect line through the main gateway of the temple, down the long processional avenue, and into the deepest, most sacred chamber, bathing the statue of the god in a river of golden light. This wasn't an accident. It was a carefully engineered moment of sacred theater. The temple itself became part of the celestial machine. This alignment also worked with the mountain's shadow. At certain times, the shadow of Jebel Barkal's distinctive pinnacle, which was believed to be a divine cobra or uraeus, would fall directly upon the temple entrance. It was as if the mountain god itself was reaching out to bless its earthly home. These events reinforced the pharaoh's divine right to rule, demonstrating his unique connection to the cosmic order. But Jebel Barkal isn't the only site. Across the Nubian landscape, we find similar patterns. At sites like El Kuru and Niri, the Royal Pyramid Fields, we see alignments that suggest a deep understanding of astronomy. The tombs themselves are often oriented to cardinal points or to the rising and setting of specific stars. This wasn't just about burial. It was about ensuring the deceased soul could successfully navigate the afterlife. Joining the eternal journey of the sun and stars, they charted the movement of constellations, understood the cycles of the moon, and recognized the importance of Sirius, whose appearance heralded the annual Nile flood, the lifeblood of their civilization. These sites weren't just places of worship. They were complex observatories, calendars carved into the very stone of the desert. The Nubians were masters of reading the sky, integrating its rhythms into their religion, their politics, and their daily lives. By studying these celestial clues, we gain a profound new respect for this ancient culture. They weren't just mimicking their Egyptian neighbors to the north. They were innovators, brilliant astronomers, and engineers who created a unique, sacred landscape that resonated with the cosmos. They saw the universe not as something distant and separate, but as an active participant in their world. The stones of Jebel Barkal and the sands of Nubia still hold so many secrets. By looking up at the same sky they once watched, we're beginning to understand the incredible depth of their wisdom. Now, we travel further south in time and geography, to the heart of the kingdom of Kush, to the legendary city of Mer. Here, amidst the golden sands, the Nubian fascination with the stars wasn't just etched into stone circles. It was built into mountains of their own making. Imagine this: a sprawling city of the dead, a royal necropolis dotted with over 200 pyramids. But these aren't the pyramids you might be picturing from Giza. The Meteoritic pyramids are a unique and stunning sight. They are much steeper, with sharp, dramatic angles, and they're smaller in scale than their Egyptian counterparts. They pierce the sky like a forest of stone spires, a testament to a distinct and powerful culture. Built between 2,700 and 2,300 years ago, these structures served as the final resting places for the kings and queens of Kush for nearly a millennium, but their purpose went far beyond just being tombs. Like their ancestors at Nabda Playa, the builders of Meroe were master astronomers. They didn't just place these pyramids randomly across the landscape. Oh no, the entire layout of the necropolis is a carefully constructed cosmic map, a grand statement written on the earth to reflect the heavens. Each pyramid, each cluster, was deliberately aligned with specific celestial bodies and events. This wasn't just about honoring the dead. It was about connecting them eternally to the power and the rhythm of the universe. So, what exactly were they looking at? The primary orientation for many of the Meroe pyramids is towards the east, greeting the sunrise. This alignment with the solar cycle was fundamental. The sun's daily rebirth was a powerful symbol of resurrection and eternal life, a concept central to their beliefs. The chapels attached to the eastern face of each pyramid were designed so that the first light of dawn would flood the inner sanctuary, symbolically reawakening the spirit of the ruler buried within. It was a daily ritual of cosmic renewal, powered by the sun itself. But it gets even more precise. Archaeologists and archaeoastronomers have discovered that the pyramids weren't just aligned to the general direction of sunrise. Their specific orientations often correspond to the position of the sun on the horizon during the winter solstice. This day, the shortest of the year, marked a crucial turning point, the death and rebirth of the solar year. By aligning their eternal homes with this moment, the Kushite royalty were tying their own afterlife journey to the sun's cyclical victory over darkness. It was a powerful message. Just as the sun returns, so too will our spirits endure. And it wasn't only about the sun. The stars, particularly the bright star Sirius, which was deeply significant in neighboring Egypt for its connection to the Nile's flood, also played a role. Some alignments at Merali appeared to target the rising of specific stars and constellations that were important to the Nubian calendar and mythology. The entire necropolis becomes a complex celestial clock, a monumental instrument for tracking time and celebrating the cyclical nature of life, death, and the cosmos. The pyramids of Meroe are more than just tombs. They are a breathtaking dialogue between earth and sky, a testament to a civilization that saw the heavens not just as a canopy of lights, but as the very blueprint for eternity, looking for celestial clues hidden within the ancient city of Meroe. You see, when we think of pyramids, we often think of Giza, where the structures are largely oriented north-south. But Meroe tells a different, more complex story. Here, the landscape of pyramids is a fascinating puzzle. Some clusters are aligned to the cardinal points north, south, east, and west, with a precision that is absolutely staggering. It makes you wonder what kind of advanced knowledge they possessed to achieve such accuracy. But that's not all. Other pyramids seem to follow a completely different logic. Their orientations don't point to the cardinal directions. Instead, many researchers believe they were aligned with the cosmos itself. Imagine the ancient Meroitic priests and astronomers standing here thousands of years ago, watching the sky. They might have oriented these sacred structures to greet the rising of specific, important stars or groups of stars, known as Perhaps the pyramids were built to honor a celestial event, a stellar deity, or to mark a significant time in their calendar, like the start of the flood season, which was so crucial for their survival and prosperity along the Nile. Each pyramid could be a chapter in a grand, cosmic story written across the landscape. Now, let's talk about something truly exciting. Though it's a topic of hot debate among archaeologists, hidden among the ruins of Meroe, there is evidence of a unique structure that might just be one of the world's oldest astronomical observatories. This isn't a pyramid, but a building with a very specific design. Picture this. A structure with carefully constructed walls. But these walls weren't just for shelter. It's proposed that they contained small, precisely placed openings, almost like windows or sighting holes. What were these holes for? The theory is that they were used for systematically tracking the movement of stars across the night sky. An ancient astronomer could sit inside, shielded from distracting stray light, and use a specific hole to frame a particular star. By observing which hole a star appeared in at different times of the night or different seasons of the year, they could create a highly accurate star map and calendar. They could predict solstices, equinoxes, and other celestial events with remarkable precision. This would have been vital for their religious ceremonies, for agriculture, and for maintaining the cosmic order, or that was so central to their worldview, much like their Egyptian neighbors. While the observatory theory is still debated, the evidence is compelling. The sheer possibility that such a sophisticated scientific instrument existed here, in ancient Nubia, is much. It challenges our perceptions of ancient civilizations and their capabilities. It suggests that the people of Meroe were not just master builders and warriors, but also keen-eyed scientists of the sky, deeply connected to the universe. The pyramids of Meroe are more than just tombs. They are a celestial map, a calendar, and a library of astronomical knowledge encoded in stone. As we continue to study these incredible structures, we're not just uncovering the secrets of an ancient kingdom. We are decoding a conversation with the cosmos that has been silent for millennia. If you thought their pyramids were fascinating, wait until you see how they read the stars. Look closely at the walls of their temples and tombs. The iconography is insistent, almost shouting a celestial message across the millennia. You'll see kings and queens consistently depicted under specific, identifiable stars. This wasn't just decoration. It was a declaration of divine right, a cosmic endorsement of their rule. The position of a star at the moment of a king's birth or coronation was etched into stone, forever linking their destiny to the heavens. It was a powerful form of propaganda, suggesting that their reign was not just an earthly matter, but a celestial event preordained by the gods themselves. Now, let's talk about their transportation. We've all seen the solar barks of the Egyptian gods, elegant vessels carrying Ra across the sky. The Nubians had a similar concept, but with their own unique flair. Their celestial boats, carved with incredible detail, show a distinct Nubian design. You can see it in the high, curved prows and the specific motifs that adorn the hulls. These weren't just copies. They were cultural adaptations. These boats carried Nubian gods, like T-lion-headed Apidmok, on their own cosmic journeys. It tells us that the Nubians weren't just borrowing ideas from their northern neighbors. They were participating in a shared cosmological conversation, adding their own chapters to the great story of the sky. The more you look, the more you see it. The language of the cosmos is absolutely everywhere in their art. It's in the patterns on their pottery, which often mirror constellations. It's in the orientation of their cities and sacred sites, aligned with solstices and equinoxes. It's in the very jewelry they wore, with amulets shaped like stars and celestial symbols meant to protect and empower the wearer. This wasn't a passive interest. This was an active, deeply integrated relationship with the universe. The sky wasn't just a canopy of twinkling lights. It was a divine clock, a sacred map, and a source of ultimate power. Every carved line, every painted star tells us that for the Nubians, heaven and earth were inextricably linked. So where did they get all this knowledge? The answer lies in places that are only now being fully understood. Their observatories. One of the most significant is Nubia, a site in the Nubian desert that predates Stonehenge by millennia. This isn't just a random collection of rocks. It's a complex astronomical calendar. The site features a circle of stones that marks the summer solstice, and lines of megaliths that point to the rising positions of bright stars like Sirius and Orion's belt. Imagine, thousands of years ago, people gathering in this remote desert location, using these massive stones to track the movement of the cosmos, to predict the changing of the seasons, and to determine the arrival of the life-giving monsoon rains. Nubia wasn't just an observatory. It was a survival tool and a spiritual center, but it wasn't the only one. Further south, along the Nile, sites like Gabel Barkel served a dual purpose. By day, it was a center for religious and political power. By night, its flat-topped summit became a perfect platform for watching the stars. The great temple of Amun at its base is precisely aligned to catch the light of the rising sun on New Year's Day. Priests would have used the mountain itself as a natural gnomon, a giant sundial to track the hours and the seasons. They were masters of aligning architecture with astronomy, creating sacred spaces where human life was perfectly synchronized with the rhythm of the cosmos. These weren't just buildings. They were intricate machines for timekeeping and prophecy, built by people who saw no difference between science and spirit. The sky was their guide, and they built their world to reflect its glory. Now, you might be thinking, weren't the Babylonians the masters of ancient astronomy? And you're right, in a way. The Babylonians were incredible mathematicians. They could predict celestial events with stunning accuracy using complex calculations. Think of them as the theoretical physicists of their time, crunching numbers to forecast the future of the heavens. On the other side of the world, in ancient China, astronomy was an affair of the state. Imperial astronomers kept meticulous records, tracking every comet, eclipse, and planetary movement. Their goal was to create a celestial calendar that mirrored the emperor's divine mandate on Earth, a highly organized, bureaucratic approach to the cosmos. But the Nubians, they had a completely different philosophy. Their astronomy wasn't confined to clay tablets or imperial courts. It was profoundly architectural and terrestrial. They weren't just predicting the sky, they were building it into their world. For them, the ultimate act of understanding the cosmos was to fix its divine order directly onto the earth, to mirror the heavens in stone. Their temples, pyramids, and even city layouts were cosmic maps, designed to channel the power of the sun, moon, and stars. Imagine standing at a Nubian temple during a solstice. The sunlight doesn't just illuminate the entrance. It pierces through a series of gates and hallways, hitting a specific point on an altar with pinpoint precision. This wasn't just decoration. It was a sacred event, a physical union of heaven and earth. Their observatories weren't just places to look at the sky. They were instruments designed to interact with it. The very structure of their buildings became a calendar, a clock, and a conduit for celestial energy. So, how did this compare to their neighbors? The Nubians definitely shared the idea of celestial omens with the cultures of Mesopotamia. Like the Babylonians, they believed that what happened in the sky had a direct impact on life below. A certain planetary alignment could signal a coming flood, a successful harvest, or the fate of a king. It was a shared language of cosmic significance that spanned across the ancient Near East. However, their methods and focus were uniquely their own, deeply rooted in the lifeblood of their civilization, the Nile River. While a Mesopotamian priest might look for an omen in the rising of Venus over the desert plains, a Nubian astronomer was watching for the star Sirius to appear just before dawn. Because the heliacal rising of Sirius was the celestial herald of the Nile's annual flood, the single most important event in their calendar. Their astronomy wasn't an abstract science. It was a survival guide, a way to synchronize their society with the rhythms of their environment. The primary alignments in their sacred architecture were tuned to the sun-est journey and the stars that governed their unique agricultural cycle. This is the genius of Nubian astronomy. It wasn't just about knowing the sky, it was about living with it. They didn't separate the celestial from the terrestrial. They wove them together into a single, cohesive reality. The patterns of the stars were reflected not just in their beliefs, but in the very ground they walked on and the temples where they worshipped. Their legacy isn't just a collection of astronomical data. It's a landscape of cosmic alignment, a testament to a people who saw the sacred in both the earth and the heavens. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive. This was part 2. Now let's dive into part 3. Stars, seasons, A&D Society Cosmic Rhythms. Make sure to like, subscribe. In part 3, we're diving deep into the cosmic rhythms that shaped entire civilizations, exploring how stars, seasons, and society danced together in a celestial ballet. Imagine a world without clocks, calendars, or apps, telling you the time and date. How would you organize your life, your agriculture, your religious ceremonies? For the ancient Nubians, the answer wasn't on a device. It was written in the night sky. For them, astronomy wasn't just some abstract science for scholars to ponder. It was the very operating system of their civilization, a practical guide woven into the fabric of their daily existence. It dictated when to plant, when to harvest, and when to honor their gods. The stars weren't distant, cold objects. They were familiar, reliable partners in the rhythm of life. Of all the celestial events they tracked, one stood out as the most critical, the most anticipated moment of the entire year: the heliacal rising of the star Sirius. So, what exactly is a heliacal rising? Picture this. For about 70 days, Sirius, the brightest star in our night sky, disappears. It's hidden by the glare of our own sun. But then, there's a special morning, just before dawn, after its long absence. Sirius reappears on the eastern horizon for the first time, a brilliant jewel in the pre-dawn glow. This wasn't just a pretty sight for the Nubians. This single event was the cornerstone of their calendar and their survival. This reappearance of Sirius was a powerful signal, a divine announcement that the life-giving annual flood of the Nile River was imminent. The flood was everything. It deposited fertile silt that made agriculture possible in the arid landscape. The heliacal rising of Sirius was the starting gun for their agricultural year. It told them, get ready. The waters are coming. Life is about to be renewed. This celestial marker allowed them to predict the flood with astonishing accuracy, giving them the knowledge they needed to prepare their fields and manage their resources. It was a perfect synchronization between the heavens and the earth, a rhythm that sustained their society for thousands of years. This connection wasn't just about farming. It deeply influenced their spiritual and social structures. The temples and monuments they built were often aligned with the rising of Sirius or other significant celestial bodies. These alignments weren't accidental. They were deliberate architectural choices designed to capture the first rays of the star on a specific day, marking sacred times and reinforcing the divine order of the universe. The pharaoh's power was intrinsically linked to this cosmic order. By understanding and predicting these events, the rulers demonstrated their connection to the gods and their ability to maintain cosmic balance, or MAT, on Earth. The sky wasn't just a dome of stars. It was a source of power, legitimacy, and spiritual meaning. The Nubian mastery of the stars reveals a profound truth. For much of human history, we have looked to the sky, not just with wonder, but with necessity. The cosmic rhythms weren't just background noise. They were the metronome that set the tempo for life, culture, and civilization itself. The heliacal rising of Sirius is a beautiful example of how our ancestors read the cosmos like a book, finding in its predictable cycles the secrets to survival and prosperity. Their story reminds us that we are, and always have been, deeply connected to the universe around us. Thanks for joining me on this exploration of cosmic rhythms. We have so much more to uncover together. See you next time. Imagine you're standing on the banks of the Nile thousands of years ago. The air is dry, the land is parched, and the people are waiting. They look to the sky, not just for rain, but for a single, brilliant star. For the ancient Egyptians and Nubians, the cosmos was not a distant, abstract concept. It was a living, breathing part of their daily existence, a clock that governed their very survival. This brings us to a celestial event that was nothing short of miraculous. Each year, just before dawn, a specific star would reappear on the eastern horizon after being hidden by the sun's glare for about 70 days. This wasn't just any star, it was Sirius, the brightest star in the night sky, and its return was a promise. This heliacal rising, as we call it, coincided with an event that was the lifeblood of their civilization: the annual inundation of the Nile River. Think about the profound connection here. The sky literally announced the arrival of the water. The reappearance of Sirius was the starting gun for the flood, a torrent of life-giving water and nutrient-rich silt that would pour over the arid fields, transforming the desert landscape into a fertile paradise. Without this flood, there would be no crops, no food, no civilization as they knew it. The star's return wasn't just a pretty sight, it was the promise of abundance, the signal that the earth was about to be reborn. This deep, unbreakable link between the star and the river shaped their entire concept of time. While we might be used to calendars based on the sun or the moon, the ancient peoples of the Nile Valley developed something truly special: a sidereal calendar. Sidereal simply means related to the stars. Their new year didn't begin on a fixed date like our January 1st. Instead, it was marked by this cosmic and terrestrial align. The day Sirius rose again, heralding the flood. This wasn't just about farming. This cosmic rhythm permeated every aspect of their society. Religious festivals were timed to coincide with these events. The pharaoh's authority was often linked to his ability to understand and mediate these cosmic forces. The very architecture of their magnificent temples and pyramids was often aligned with celestial bodies, including Sirius. They were building a society in harmony with the universe, a civilization whose heart beat in time with the stars. The Nubian calendar, in particular, is a testament to this incredible astronomical knowledge. Further south along the Nile, their understanding of the stars was just as sophisticated. They observed the sky with meticulous care, creating a calendar that was a practical tool for survival and a spiritual guide. It connected the human world to the divine, the earthly to the celestial. It was a calendar that said, we are part of something much larger than ourselves. Our lives are woven into the fabric of the cosmos. So when we look up at the night sky today, it's worth remembering that for millennia, our ancestors didn't just see a random scattering of lights. They saw a map, a clock, and a storybook. They saw the rhythms of their own lives reflected in the grand, predictable dance of the stars. The return of a single star could mean the difference between famine and feast. And in that simple, powerful observation, we find the very origins of astronomy and the heartbeat of an ancient civilization. The cosmos wasn't just something to be observed, it was something to be lived. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey back in time. Have you ever wondered how ancient civilizations kept time? Not just the time of day, but the time of year. The rhythm of the seasons that dictated their very survival in places like ancient Nubia. This wasn't just a casual observation, it was a sacred science, a cosmic dance between the heavens and the earth. And at the heart of it all were the priestly astronomers. Imagine standing at a sacred site, a place like Jebel Barkel in modern-day Sudan. This wasn't just a mountain, it was an observatory, a celestial clock tower. From this vantage point, specialized priests would meticulously track the movements of the stars. They weren't just stargazing for fun, they were watching for a very specific sign, a celestial signal that the old year had ended, and a new one was about to begin. For the Egyptians and Nubians, this was often linked to the heliacal rising of Sirius, the brightest star in the night sky. After being hidden by the sun's glare for about 70 days, its first reappearance just before dawn was the ultimate cosmic announcement. When that star crested the horizon, it was a moment of immense significance. The priestly astronomer would make the official declaration. The new year has arrived. This wasn't just a reason for a party, though I'm sure there were celebrations. This declaration was the starting gun for the entire society. It was the signal that set in motion the lifeblood of their civilization. The agricultural cycle, the New Year's arrival, signaled by the stars, coincided with the annual flooding of the Nile River, the event that brought fertile silt and life-giving water to the arid lands. With the new year declared and the floodwaters beginning their advance, the entire economic and social calendar clicked into place. This was the time for planting. Farmers, guided by this celestial and priestly authority, would know exactly when to sow their seeds in the newly enriched soil. The priests didn't just call the new year. Their knowledge of the cosmos helped manage the intricate systems of irrigation, ensuring the floodwaters were channeled effectively to nourish the crops. Every decision, from when to dig the first canal to when to prepare the fields, was synchronized with this heavenly rhythm. Think about it. The entire economy was governed by the sky. The priest's ability to read the stars was not just a spiritual role, it was the most critical economic forecasts of the year. Their predictions determined the timing of labor, the allocation of resources, and ultimately, the success of the harvest. A successful harvest meant food for the people, surplus for trade, and wealth for the kingdom. An error in reading the stars could lead to a mistimed planting, a failed crop, and potential famine. The stakes were incredibly high. So, the stars weren't just beautiful lights in the sky. They were the gears of a massive clock that regulated life and death, prosperity and hardship. The patterns of Sirius Orion and the constellations were the board of directors for the ancient Nile Valley economy. The priestly astronomers, perched atop places like Gebel Barkal, were at the seals, interpreting the cosmic data and issuing the directives that kept their society running. This profound connection shows us that for our ancestors, there was no separation between the heavens, the earth, and the intricate web of human society. They all moved to the same cosmic rhythm. It is a powerful reminder that looking up at the sky has always been one of humanity's most important endeavors, shaping not just our myths and beliefs, but the very foundations of our civilizations. We saw how the star Sirius, or Sopdut, was the cornerstone of the Egyptian calendar, heralding the life-giving flood of the Nile. But the Egyptians' connection to the heavens went far deeper than just one star. They didn't just borrow constellations from other cultures. They painted their own epic stories across the vast, dark canvas of the night sky. Imagine looking up from the banks of the Nile. Thousands of years ago, you see the same stars we see, but you interpret them through a completely different lens. The constellation we know as Orion, the mighty hunter, with his distinctive belt, might have been seen by them as a procession of revered gods or a lineup of divine ancestors marching across the heavens. That shimmering, ethereal band of light we call the Milky Way. To the ancient Egyptians, it could have been the celestial counterpart to their own earthly river, a great, luminous Nile flowing through the land of the gods, a pathway for souls journeying into the afterlife. This wasn't just idle stargazing. Every cluster of stars was imbued with profound meaning. A group of stars we might struggle to connect could, to them, form the unmistakable shape of a lion. And the lion wasn't just an animal. It was a potent symbol of royalty, of the pharaoh's divine power and strength. Seeing a celestial lion would have been a powerful affirmation of the king's connection to the gods and his right to rule. These star patterns were deeply woven into the fabric of their political and religious identity. So, when an ancient Egyptian looked at the night sky, they weren't just seeing random points of light. They were reading a sacred text, a grand, unfolding narrative written in the stars. These celestial stories weren't just bedtime tales. They were complex chronicles of divine power, lessons in morality, and roadmaps for the soul's perilous journey after death. The sky was a mirror of the earthly realm and a guide for the eternal one. Each constellation was a chapter, each star, a word in a divine language that explained their place in the universe. For example, the circumpolar stars, those that never dip below the horizon in the northern sky, were known as the Indestructibles, or they represented eternity and were seen as the final destination for the souls of deceased pharaohs. The pyramids were often aligned with incredible precision to these stars, creating a direct physical and spiritual causeway for the king's spirit to ascend and join the eternal, unchanging gods among the imperishable stars. The architecture on the ground was a direct reflection of the theology in the sky. Think about the Big Dipper. To the Egyptians, this constellation was seen as the foreleg of a bull, a symbol associated with the god Set. In their mythology, Set was a complex figure, often representing chaos and disruption. During a crucial funerary ritual known as the opening of the mouth ceremony, which was performed on the mummy to magically restore its senses for the afterlife, a tool shaped like this constellation was used. By symbolically severing the foreleg of the bull in the sky, they believed they were vanquishing the chaotic forces of Set, ensuring a safe passage for the deceased into the orderly realm of Osiris. This intricate dance between the earth and the sky governed every aspect of their lives, from planting crops to crowning kings, from building tombs to preparing for the afterlife. The cosmos wasn't a distant, abstract concept. It was an active, living participant in their daily existence and their eternal destiny. The stars weren't just guides for navigation. They were guides for the soul. The patterns they saw were the very blueprints of their cosmology, the divine architecture of their universe. The night sky was their temple, their history book, and their map to eternity, all rolled into one breathtaking spectacle. Thank you for joining me on this celestial exploration. But the Egyptians' celestial vision didn't stop there. They looked beyond Sirius and mapped their own unique sky, creating a celestial landscape that was deeply intertwined with their culture, beliefs, and daily lives. Imagine looking up at the night sky, not just seeing random points of light, but a grand tapestry woven with stories and meaning. This is exactly what the ancient Egyptians did. The constellation we know today as Orion, with its distinctive three-star belt, might have been seen by them as a procession of gods or revered ancestors marching across the heavens. This celestial parade wasn't just a pretty picture. It was a constant, visible reminder of their lineage and divine order. And what about that shimmering band of light stretching across the sky? The one we call the Milky Way. To the Egyptians, living their lives by the rhythms of their great river, it's easy to imagine they saw it as a celestial reflection of the Nile itself, a great, heavenly river flowing through the cosmos, mirroring the life-giving waters that flowed through their land. This celestial Nile would have been the path for the sun god Ra's daily journey, a cosmic highway for deities and the souls of the departed. This connection between the earthly and the heavenly wasn't just poetic, it was a fundamental part of their worldview, reinforcing the idea of Mat, the cosmic balance and order. Their celestial zoo was also rich with symbolism. Think about the powerful and majestic lion, a creature that roamed the edges of their desert world. It was a potent symbol of royalty and divine authority. It's highly likely that a group of stars, perhaps what we recognize as Leo, was envisioned as a great celestial lion. This lion in the sky would have served as a constant reminder of the pharaoh's power, a divine protector watching over the kingdom from above. Every time they looked up and saw this cosmic lion, it would have reinforced the legitimacy and might of their rulers. But these celestial images were so much more than just simple pictures. They were complex narratives, epic stories written in the stars. Each constellation, each celestial event, was a chapter in a larger saga of divine power, of the eternal struggle between order and chaos, of morality, and of the soul's perilous journey through the afterlife. The sky was their sacred text, a living document that explained the universe and their place within it. For instance, the circumpolar stars, those that never set below the horizon, were known as the Indestructibles. They represented eternity and the souls of the blessed dead, who had achieved an immortal existence among the gods. These star stories guided their rituals, informed their morality, and gave them hope for an eternal afterlife. The night sky was a moral compass and a spiritual roadmap. It provided answers to life's biggest questions. Where do we come from? How should we live? And what happens after we die? For the ancient Egyptians, the answers weren't found in a book tucked away in a temple. They were displayed for all to see, every single night, in the grand, silent theater of the cosmos. Their connection to the stars was profound, shaping their society, their beliefs, and their very identity. Thank you so much for joining me on this exploration of ancient Egypt's celestial world. The universe they saw was alive with meaning and purpose, a reflection of their own lives on the banks of the Nile. We have so much more to uncover. Thanks for watching. Imagine looking up at the night sky, not just as a collection of twinkling lights, but as a living, breathing entity. For ancient civilizations, this wasn't poetry, it was reality. The cosmos was alive, Each star wasn't just a distant sun, it was a deity, or at the very least, a direct manifestation of one. The universe was a grand theater of gods, and humanity had a front row seat. So, when ancient astronomers tracked the movements of these celestial bodies, they weren't just doing science as we know it today. They were engaging in a sacred conversation. To track the stars was to commune with the divine. It was a way to understand the will of the gods, to predict the future, and most importantly, to maintain the delicate balance of the universe. In ancient Egypt, they called this concept Mat, the fundamental order of truth, justice, and cosmic harmony. To fall out of step with the cosmos was to invite chaos. This celestial responsibility wasn't for everyone. It was a royal and priestly duty. A king's power, his very legitimacy, was directly tied to his ability to uphold this cosmic order. If the seasons were predictable, the harvests were bountiful, and the floods of the Nile arrived on time. It was seen as proof that the king was in favor with the gods and successfully maintaining Stargazing was a high-stakes political and religious activity, a prerogative reserved for the most powerful in society. They were the bridge between the heavens and the earth. This is why their most magnificent structures were built with the stars in mind. Think of the great temples and pyramids. Their alignment wasn't accidental. It was a deliberate, powerful statement. Your temple's alignment was your political manifesto, written in stone and starlight for all to see, and for the gods to recognize. A temple pointing towards the rising sun on the solstice, or aligned with a particular star, was a declaration of the king's connection to the divine, his commitment to cosmic order, and his right to rule. It was a way of anchoring their society, their power, and their faith to the eternal, unchanging rhythms of the cosmos. This profound connection wasn't just about abstract beliefs. It had incredibly practical applications. The stars were the ultimate clock and calendar. The heliacal rising of the star Sirius, for example, perfectly predicted the annual, life-giving inundation of the Nile River. This wasn't just a fun fact. It was the foundation of their entire agricultural system, their economy, and their survival. By observing the stars, they knew when to plant, when to harvest, and when to prepare for the floods. The sky directly dictated the rhythm of life on the ground. These celestial cycles of death and rebirth, light and darkness, were mirrored in their myths and rituals. The disappearance and reappearance of constellations were woven into stories of gods who died and were resurrected, reflecting the natural cycles of the seasons. Public festivals and religious ceremonies were timed to coincide with solstice, equinoxes, and other significant celestial events. In this way, the entire society participated in the cosmic drama, reinforcing their collective identity and their place within the universe. They didn't just observe the cosmos, they lived Italiano. So, the next time you gaze at the stars, remember that for millennia, our ancestors saw more than just gas and fire. They saw a divine blueprint for life, a source of power, and a sacred script that governed their world. They saw a reflection of themselves in the cosmic dance, a rhythm that connected the king on his throne to the smallest seed in the ground, all under the watchful eyes of the stars. It's a powerful reminder that for most of human history, we have looked to the sky not just for wonder, but for answers, for order, and for meaning. Long before clocks, calendars, and GPS, the cosmos was our guide, our clock, and our compass. The universe wasn't just a collection of distant, twinkling lights. It was a living, breathing entity, deeply woven into the fabric of human society. This is the story of how cosmic rhythms shaped our world. Imagine standing in an ancient temple. How would you know when to begin a sacred ritual? You'd look to the sun. The length and direction of a shadow cast by a monument or a simple stick in the ground told you the precise hour of the day. This wasn't just timekeeping. It was a divine schedule, dictated by the heavens. The sun's daily journey across the sky and its yearly path through the seasons weren't just astronomical events. They were cosmic dramas that dictated when to plant, when to harvest, and when to celebrate. Festivals like the solstices and equinoxes weren't just parties. They were crucial moments to honor the celestial cycles that governed life itself. This connection went far beyond agriculture and daily routines. It reached the highest echelons of power. Think about a royal coronation. How do you ensure a king's reign will be long and prosperous? You'd consult the stars. Ancient astrologer priests would scan the heavens, searching for an auspicious asterism, a favorable pattern of stars under which to hold the ceremony. A coronation under the right celestial alignment was believed to secure divine favor, legitimacy, and a golden age for the kingdom. The stars weren't just decoration. They were active participants in the affairs of state, their positions influencing decisions that could shape the destiny of an entire civilization. This cosmic understanding wasn't just for the living. It was also a guide for the soul in the afterlife. Consider the magnificent tombs of ancient queens and pharaohs. Their alignment wasn't random. Many were precisely oriented towards specific celestial bodies. For example, the queen's tomb might be built so that a narrow shaft pointed directly to the circumpolar stars, the ones that never set below the horizon. They called them the imperishable stars. The belief was that by aligning the tomb in this way, the queen's soul would have a direct pathway to ascend to the heavens and join these eternal, undying stars, achieving immortality among the gods. It was a beautiful, profound expression of their belief that our destiny was written in the stars, both in this life and the next. From the simple act of telling time with a shadow to the grand, complex architecture of a royal tomb, cosmic rhythms were absolutely fundamental. They were integrated into religion, providing a schedule for worship and a map to the afterlife. They were embedded in governance, legitimizing rulers and guiding major political events, and they were essential to daily life, organizing work, society, and survival. The universe wasn't just something to be observed, it was a partner in the human experience. The sun, moon, and stars were our first clock, our first calendar, and our first connection to the divine. This ancient wisdom reminds us that we are not separate from the cosmos, but a part of its grand, rhythmic dance. This is part 4. Beyond the Nile. Global echoes of Nubian stargazing. Hang on. As we continue to explore the hidden secrets, we're expanding our view, looking beyond the Nile, to see how Nubian astronomical knowledge echoed across the ancient world, just like the gold, ivory, and ebony that flowed from Nubia along bustling trade routes. Ideas and wisdom also traveled. Nubia wasn't an isolated kingdom, it was a vibrant crossroads, a hub connecting Inner Africa with the Mediterranean and the Near East. This unique position meant that their understanding of the cosmos didn't develop in a vacuum. It was part of a larger, dynamic conversation happening across continents. So, where do we find these echoes? Well, the influence likely flowed both ways. We've talked about the Egyptian connection, but Nubian culture also interacted with civilizations across the Red Sea and deep into the African interior. Imagine caravans not just carrying goods, but also charts of the stars, calendars marking the seasons, and stories about the constellations. These weren't just abstract ideas. They were practical tools for navigation, for agriculture, and for spiritual life. A trader from Punt, or a traveler from the lands of Yem, might have carried with them a Nubian method for tracking the moon, or predicting the Nile's flood, adapting it to their own skies and needs. But to find the most ancient and perhaps most profound connection, we must venture away from the fertile Nile Valley and into the vast arid expanse of the Sahara. Long before the pyramids were even a dream, long before the kingdoms of Kerma or Kush rose to power, people were living in a very different Sahara. It was a green, lush, savanna dotted with lakes and teeming with life. And it's here, in this ancient cradle of civilization, that we find one of the most astonishing astronomical alignments in the world. We're talking about Nubia, located about 100 kilometers west of Abu Simbel, in what is now the Egyptian desert. This site predates Stonehenge by millennia. Around 7,000 years ago, nomadic cattle herders gathered here. They erected a small, circular arrangement of stones. It might not look like much today, but its purpose was monumental. This stone circle, one of the oldest known archaeoastronomical sites on Earth, appears to have been a prehistoric calendar. The stones align with key stars, marking the arrival of the summer solstice and the season of monsoons that would briefly turn the desert green. So what's the connection to Nubia? Nubia sits at a prehistoric crossroads, on a path that would have connected the deep Sahara with the Nile Valley. As the climate changed and the Sahara began to dry up around 6,000 years ago, its people migrated. Many of them moved eastward, towards the reliable, life-giving waters of the Nile, bringing their culture, their traditions, and their deep knowledge of the sky with them. These early Saharan stargazers are considered by many archaeologists to be among the ancestors of the Nile Valley civilizations, including the ancient Nubians. This suggests that the Nubian fascination with the stars wasn't just born on the banks of the Nile. It had roots stretching back thousands of years into the green sea. The impulse to look up, to chart the heavens, and to find our place within the cosmic order is a deeply human one. The calendar circle at Nabda Playa is a powerful testament to this ancient heritage that the Nubians carried forward, refined, and made their own. From the Saharan nomads to the pyramid-building kings, we see an unbroken thread of astronomical tradition, a legacy written not just in stone and papyrus, but in the stars themselves. We've journeyed through the heart of Nubia, uncovering a civilization deeply connected to the cosmos. But the story doesn't end at the Nile's edge. We're venturing beyond to discover the global echoes of Nubian stargazing. Starting in a place you might not expect, the vast arid expanse of what is now the Egyptian desert. Imagine this. Over 7,000 years ago, long before the first pyramids pierced the sky, a community of cattle-herding people thrived here. These weren't Egyptians as we often picture them, but a group culturally and ancestrally linked to the early Nubians to the south. In a place called Nabda Playa, they accomplished something truly extraordinary. They arranged massive stone slabs, creating one of the world's oldest known astronomical devices. This wasn't just a random collection of rocks. It was a precisely engineered calendar circle. For us today, looking at these weathered megaliths, it's humbling to think about their purpose. These ancient people, living a nomadic or semi-nomadic life dependent on seasonal rains, needed to understand the heavens. Their survival depended on predicting the arrival of the monsoon, and their stone circle did just that. It was aligned with incredible accuracy to mark the summer solstice, the longest day of the year, a crucial signal that the life-giving rains were coming. This wasn't a casual observation. It was a sophisticated system built from deep knowledge passed down through generations. The main stones align with the direction of the rising sun on the solstice, while other stones seem to map out key constellations like Orion's belt. Think about the implications of this. The Nabda Playa stone circle predates Stonehenge in England by thousands of years. It predates many other famous ancient astronomical sites around the world. This places the origins of megalithic astronomy firmly in Africa. It demonstrates that the tradition of precise, scientific observation of the sky, a tradition we've celebrated throughout Nubian history, has roots that go back into deep time. It wasn't born in Mesopotamia or Greece. One of its earliest and most impressive expressions arose from the minds of these ancient African cattle herders. This discovery completely reshapes our understanding of the ancient world. It shows that complex societies with advanced scientific knowledge were flourishing in North Africa far earlier than previously thought. The people of Nabda Playa weren't just surviving, they were thriving, questioning, and building. They were scientists, engineers, and astronomers, using the tools they had stoned and observation to decode the very language of the universe. Their stone circle is a silent testament to a powerful intellectual heritage, a legacy that would flow down the Nile and ripple outwards, influencing cultures and civilizations for millennia to come. So, as we conclude our journey, let's remember Nabda Playa. It's more than just an archaeological site. It's a profound reminder that the human quest for knowledge, our timeless desire to look up at the stars and find our place among them, has some of its oldest and most brilliant beginnings right here on the African continent. The echoes of these first stargazers are still heard today, a legacy of curiosity and ingenuity that connects us all. Did you know that long before Stonehenge was built, an ancient African society created one of the world's oldest astronomical devices? We're venturing beyond the Nile to explore the global echoes of this incredible tradition. Our journey begins in a place you might not expect: the vast, empty expanse of what is now the Egyptian desert. Picture this. Over 7,000 years ago, long before the first pharaohs, a community of cattle-herding people lived here. These groups, who shared cultural roots with the early Nubians, weren't just surviving. They were looking up at the heavens and trying to make sense of it all. And in a place called Nabda Playa, they built something extraordinary. It wasn't a pyramid or a temple, but a circle of stones. This wasn't just a random rock placement. This was a calendar, a celestial clockwork built on the desert floor. This stone circle at Nabta Playa is arguably one of the oldest known astronomical devices on the entire planet. What was its purpose? It was designed to mark a crucial moment in the year, the summer solstice. The alignment was so precise that it allowed these ancient people to predict the arrival of the life-giving monsoon rains, which would transform the arid landscape into a temporary savanna, perfect for grazing their cattle. Think about the level of sophistication required for this. It demonstrates a deep understanding of the sun's path and the changing seasons. This wasn't just casual observation. It was a systematic, scientific approach to understanding their world. Encoded in stone, the discovery of Nabta Playa completely changed our understanding of early astronomy. It proves that the tradition of precise celestial observation in Africa is incredibly ancient, predating many famous sites in Europe and elsewhere. It shows that the foundations of the astronomical knowledge we often associate with ancient Egypt were being laid much earlier by these cattle-herding cultures with Nubian ties. They were the pioneers, the original stargazers who understood that the cosmos held the key to survival and prosperity. The stones were aligned not just to the solstice sun, but also to certain bright stars in the night sky, indicating a complex star-based calendar as well. This was a multifunctional tool, a guide for both earthly and celestial events. So, why does this matter on a global scale? Nabta Playa is a powerful testament to an African tradition of science and innovation that has been overlooked for too long. It's a foundational piece of the puzzle of human intellectual history. When we think of the great astronomers of the past, we should also remember these anonymous cattle herders in the desert. Their legacy isn't just in the stones they left behind, but in the very idea that humanity has always looked to the stars for answers. This deep-time tradition of observation and calendar-getting didn't just stay in the desert. It became part of a stream of knowledge that would flow down the Nile, influencing the great civilizations that followed and echoing across the ancient world. The desire to chart the stars, to predict the seasons, and to find our place in the universe is a shared human story. And Nabta Playa is one of its very first chapters. Thank you for joining us on this incredible journey back in time. The story of Nubian astronomy is a reminder that brilliant discoveries can be found in the most unexpected places. Ever wondered if the story of ancient astronomy we all know is missing a huge chapter? We often hear about the Egyptians and their pyramids aligned with the stars, but what if I told you their neighbors to the south, the Nubians, were equally brilliant stargazers, and that the cosmic conversation along the Nile was a two-way street? For a long time, the narrative was simple. Egypt, the great civilization, influenced everyone around it, including Nubia. And yes, there's no denying the profound impact Egyptian culture had on the Nubian kingdoms. We see it in their art, their writing, and their religion. But when we look up at the night sky, a more complex and fascinating picture begins to emerge. The flow of knowledge wasn't just a one-way river flowing north. It was a dynamic exchange, a celestial dialogue between two great peoples. Imagine ancient astronomers on both sides of the border, observing the same stars, the same celestial cycles. While they shared much, their focus might have differed. Evidence suggests that Nubian astronomical practices may have had their own unique flavor. Perhaps they placed a greater emphasis on specific stars that were more prominent in their southern sky, or developed distinct methods for aligning their temples and tombs. We see intriguing alignments in Nubian sites that suggest a deep, independent understanding of the cosmos. Think about it. The famous temple of Abu Simbel, built by Ramesses II, is located right on the historical border with Nubia. Its solar alignment is legendary. Is it possible that its design was influenced by local Nubian astronomical traditions, a nod to the celestial wisdom of their southern neighbors? This idea challenges the old top-down view and suggests a shared heritage of the knowledge wasn't just exported from Egypt. It was also imported, adapted, and co-created. This exchange reached its absolute peak during the 25th dynasty. This is when Nubian kings, the so-called Black Pharaohs, conquered and ruled all of Egypt. This wasn't just a political takeover. It was a cultural and intellectual one as well. For nearly a century, Nubian pharaohs sat on the throne in Memphis and Thebes. They didn't just adopt Egyptian customs, they revitalized them, all while bringing their own unique worldview. Imagine the impact. These rulers, hailing from a land with its own ancient astronomical traditions, were now in charge of the entire Egyptian state apparatus. They were the ones commissioning temples, overseeing religious festivals, and dictating the official state ideology. It's almost certain that they implanted their own cosmic worldview directly into the heart of Egyptian administration. Their understanding of the heavens, their sacred stars, and their methods of tracking time would have merged with and influenced the long-standing Egyptian systems. This period represents a powerful fusion. The Nubian pharaohs saw themselves as true heirs to the spiritual legacy of Egypt, but they were also proudly Nubian. Their rule meant that Nubian concepts of divine kingship, cosmic order, and the afterlife were no longer just a regional practice, but became the official doctrine of the most powerful empire in the region. They didn't just build in Egypt, they built with a Nubian soul, embedding their ancestral connection to the stars into the very stones of the Nile Valley. So, the next time you see a documentary about ancient Egyptian astronomy, remember the story is bigger and richer than that. The echoes of Nubian stargazing aren't just found in the sands of Sudan, but are woven into the very fabric of Egyptian history. The Nile wasn't a border, but a conduit for a shared cosmic journey. It's a powerful reminder that history is rarely a monologue. It's a vibrant, complex dialogue, and in this case, it was written in the stars.
So, we've journeyed deep into Nubia, uncovering a civilization of brilliant astronomers who read the heavens like a grand cosmic clock. But now, we need to zoom out, way out, because the story doesn't end at the borders of Kush. To truly understand Nubia's genius, we have to talk about networks. For too long, history has been told through the lens of the isolated genius. This idea that a single person or a single culture suddenly invented everything. But that's not how knowledge works. Ancient science wasn't a solo act. It was a symphony, a massive interconnected network of shared ideas. And Nubia was a major hub in a continental African network of knowledge. Think about it. The astronomical concepts we've seen in Nubia using stars to mark the seasons, building monumental solstice markers, weaving the cosmos into mythology, these aren't unique, isolated phenomena. We see echoes of these very same ideas reverberating across the continent. From the Dogon people in West Africa with their intricate knowledge of the Sirius star system, to the stone circles of southern Africa that align with celestial events, a pattern emerges. It suggests a shared foundation, a slow, organic diffusion of astronomical wisdom that flowed across deserts, savannas, and rivers for millennia. This wasn't a one-way street, with knowledge flowing from one superior culture to another. It was a dynamic exchange. Ideas traveled with merchants on caravan routes, with pilgrims on spiritual journeys, and with artisans sharing their crafts. A discovery made by a stargazer in Marukud over generations influenced the calendar of a community 1,000 miles away. This African network of knowledge was built on observation, communication, and a shared human desire to understand our place in the universe. Nubia wasn't just receiving information, it was actively contributing, shaping, and refining this collective astronomical heritage. When we acknowledge this, when we see Nubia not as a satellite of Egypt, but as a central node in a vast African intellectual web, the entire map of scientific history has to be redrawn. We are forced to dismantle the old colonial-era narratives that placed the origins of science exclusively in Greece or Mesopotamia. The story is far richer, far more complex, and far more global than that. Recognizing Nubia's sophistication means we have to remap the history of science onto Africa itself. And in this new map, Africa is not a passive recipient of knowledge that trickled down from the north. No, Africa is a generative source, a cradle of innovation where fundamental concepts of timekeeping, calendar making, and cosmology were born and nurtured. The solar alignments at sites like Jebel Barkal aren't just local curiosities. They are African contributions to a global human story. They represent a deep, indigenous scientific tradition that developed in parallel with, and at times influenced, other great civilizations of the ancient world. It challenges us to look for connections, not just differences. It asks us to consider how much of what we call Western science might have roots stretching back through Greece and Egypt, into the African interior, into the very heart of Nubia. The legacy of these ancient stargazers isn't just stone and starlight. It's a fundamental shift in our understanding of who creates knowledge and where true genius lies. It's written across the continent, and its echoes are still being felt today. If this has sparked your curiosity, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our final chapter.
If you thought the story ended with the fall of a kingdom, you're in for a surprise. The truth is, the story of Meroitic astronomy is far from over. In fact, it's being reborn right now, thanks to the incredible tools of the 21st century. It's like we've been given a new pair of eyes to look back through time, and what we're seeing is absolutely breathtaking. For centuries, the secrets of the Meroitic skywatchers were locked away, buried under sand or hidden in plain sight. But today, we have technology that would have seemed like magic to them, and it's allowing us to decode their celestial legacy. Take satellite imagery. For instance, from orbit, we can scan the entire landscape of Nubia, revealing faint lines and patterns invisible on the ground. These patterns are showing us that entire complexes, from temples to pyramids, were aligned with specific stars and solar events, with a precision we never thought possible. It's a celestial blueprint written on the very desert floor. But we're not just looking down from space, we're also recreating the past. Using advanced 3D modeling software, we can digitally rebuild the city of Meroe as it stood 2,000 years ago. More than that, we can turn back the cosmic clock. We can simulate the night sky over the royal city on any given date in its history. Want to see exactly what the priests saw on the night of a royal coronation in 100 BC? We can do that. We can watch as the star Sirius rises perfectly over the peak of a specific pyramid, confirming ancient texts and revealing the profound connection between their leadership and the heavens. It's a virtual time machine, and it's bringing the Meroitic cosmos to life right on our screens. This digital resurrection isn't just about confirming what we already suspected. It's leading to brand new discoveries. By cross-referencing these digital models with the archaeological record, we're identifying structures that we now believe were dedicated observatories. A simple-looking wall might turn out to be an ingeniously designed sighting device for tracking the solstice. A series of post holes could be the remains of an instrument used to chart the moon-esque complex cycle. We're re-examining every artifact, every inscription, through this new lens of archaeoastronomy. And the excitement isn't just happening in labs and on computer screens. It's happening on the ground, in the dust and heat of the Sudanese desert. Every single season of excavation holds the potential for a game-changing discovery. The next swing of a pickaxe could unearth a stone slab carved with a star chart we've never seen before. The careful brushing away of sand could reveal a hidden chamber whose very dimensions are encoded with astronomical knowledge. Each new find is a piece of the puzzle, a message from the past that we are finally equipped to understand. What is truly incredible is how this fusion of old and new is changing our entire perception of the Meroitic civilization. They weren't just a powerful kingdom. They were a society of brilliant scientists, philosophers, and engineers. Their pyramids weren't just tombs, they were cosmic engines, designed to connect the earthly realm of the living with the eternal cycles of the stars. This legacy, once thought to be lost, is being and we are the generation that gets to witness it. The story of Meroe teaches us a powerful lesson. No knowledge is ever truly lost. It simply waits for a time when we have the right tools and the right questions to find it again. As we continue to explore, to dig, and to innovate, we're not just learning about an ancient African kingdom. We are recovering a vital chapter in the shared human story of our quest to understand the universe and our place within it. The ancient skies of Meroe are speaking to us once more, and their voice is clearer than ever. The story of Nubian astronomy isn't just about the past. It's very much alive in the present, and its future is brighter than ever. For centuries, this incredible scientific legacy was either overlooked, misunderstood, or simply attributed to others. But now, a powerful shift is happening. A new generation of scholars, many of whom are of African and Nubian descent, are stepping forward to reclaim this history. This isn't just an academic exercise for them. This is personal. They are breathing new life into ancient texts, re-examining archaeological sites, and piecing together a narrative that was almost lost. What makes this modern movement so exciting is the unique perspective these scholars bring. They see the stars not just as points of light, but as connections to their ancestors. They understand the cultural context, the languages, and the traditions in a way that previous researchers couldn't. They are driven by a passion to restore a heritage that belongs to them, to their communities, and to the world. It's about correcting the record, about showing the world the sheer brilliance and sophistication of these ancient African civilizations. They are challenging old, colonial-era assumptions and are determined to place Nubia rightfully among the great scientific cultures of antiquity. Their work is like a form of archaeological time travel. They're using cutting-edge technology, like satellite imaging to find undiscovered sites and advanced software to model the ancient night sky. Imagine being able to see exactly what a Nubian astronomer saw 4,000 years ago, to understand their calculations, and to appreciate the precision of their cosmic calendar. This fusion of ancient wisdom and modern technology is unlocking secrets that have been buried for millennia. They are collaborating with local communities in Sudan and Egypt, ensuring that the people whose heritage this is are part of the discovery process. This collaborative approach makes the research richer and more meaningful. It's no longer about outsiders studying a culture. It's about a people exploring and celebrating their own story. The impact of this reclamation goes far beyond university halls and academic papers. It's about inspiration for young people in Africa and across the diaspora. Seeing scholars who look like them uncovering this incredible scientific history is profoundly empowering. It sends a clear message. Science, technology, engineering, and math are not foreign concepts. They are part of your heritage. Your ancestors were pioneers of astronomy, and you are part of that legacy. This rediscovery is fueling a renewed sense of pride and identity. It is helping to build a future where the scientific contributions of African civilizations are not just a footnote, but a headline. So, as we look up at the same stars that the Nubians once charted with such skill, we are witnessing more than just the revival of an ancient science. We are seeing a legacy being reclaimed, a story being retold with truth and passion. The work of these dedicated scholars ensures that the celestial wisdom of the Nubian kingdom will not be forgotten again. It will continue to inspire and illuminate our understanding of the past and light the way for generations to come. This is a living history, unfolding right now, written in the stars and reclaimed by the heirs of those who first read them. Have you ever stopped to think about what you learned in school about the ancient world? For most of us, the story of early science is a very specific one. We hear about the Greeks, their philosophy, their mathematics. We learn about the Romans, their engineering, their aqueducts. And that's often where the lesson ends. It's a powerful narrative, but it's an incomplete one. For so long, I, like many others, grew up with a fragmented picture of my own heritage. We knew we had pyramids. These colossal, breathtaking structures were a source of immense pride, a symbol of a great past. But when you asked why, the answer was always a little vague. They were tombs for pharaohs, monuments to power. The deeper meaning, the genius behind them, was often glossed over, lost in the sands of time. But what if those pyramids, and countless other ancient marvels, were more than just buildings? What if they were scientific instruments, celestial maps, and philosophical statements all carved in stone? The journey to uncover this truth has been nothing short of revolutionary. To finally understand that my ancestors weren't just skilled builders but were profound scientists, astronomers, and philosophers of the cosmos, well, it changes everything. It reframes our entire understanding of history and our place in it. This wasn't just about stacking stones. It was about aligning with the stars, tracking the cycles of the sun and moon, and understanding the universe's grand design. They were observing, calculating, and predicting celestial events with astonishing accuracy, long before the so-called fathers of science we read about in textbooks. Imagine the level of knowledge required. They developed complex mathematical systems to design these structures with pinpoint precision. They created calendars that were deeply intertwined with astronomical cycles, governing everything from agriculture to religious festivals. This was a civilization that lived and breathed at the cosmos. The sky wasn't just a beautiful backdrop. It was a guide, a clock, and a sacred text, all in one. The stars told them when to plant, when to harvest, and where they were in the grand scheme of time. This realization is incredibly powerful. It shifts the narrative from one of mysterious, brute force construction to one of elegant, intellectual, and scientific achievement. It's a legacy of curiosity, of observation, and of a deep, meaningful connection to the universe. And this isn't just about reclaiming some long-lost past glory. It's not about looking backward and saying, "Look what we once were." It's about looking forward. This reclaimed legacy is a vibrant, living source of inspiration for the future. It tells us that the tools for deep inquiry, the spirit of scientific exploration, have always been part of our heritage. They've been here, waiting to be rediscovered and reignited. It proves that greatness, innovation, and a profound understanding of the world are not foreign concepts imported from elsewhere. They are in our very DNA. This knowledge empowers a new generation of thinkers, scientists, and artists. It gives us a foundation to build upon, a reminder that the same sky our ancestors watched with such wisdom and wonder is the same sky we look up at today. So, what does this mean for us now? It means we can approach the future with a renewed sense of confidence and purpose. We can look at the challenges of today, whether in science, technology, or philosophy, and know that we come from a lineage of problem solvers and pioneers. The ancient skies hold more than just stars. They hold the story of our potential. By understanding our ancestors' relationship with the cosmos, we learn more about ourselves. We learn that the quest for knowledge is a timeless human endeavor. It's a legacy that doesn't belong in a museum, locked behind glass. It's a legacy to be lived, to be explored, and to be built upon. It has a call to action, to look up at the stars and remember that the journey of discovery is our birthright. What an incredible journey we've been on, right? We've traveled back thousands of years to the banks of the Nile, uncovering the lost world of Nubian astronomy. We've seen how they used the stars to build their temples, predict the seasons, and guide their very civilization. But as we wrap up our series, I want to talk about what this all really means for us today, because reclaiming the legacy of the Nubian stargazers is so much more than just correcting a few pages in a history book. It's not just about saying, "Hey, they did it too." It's about something far deeper, something that connects every single one of us. This story is a powerful testament to the universal human drive to look up at the night sky and find meaning, to find order in the vast, beautiful chaos of the universe. Think about it. For as long as we been human, we've gazed at the same stars, asked the same questions. Who are we? Where did we come from? What is our place in this cosmic dance? The Nubians were asking these questions, just like the ancient Greeks, the Mayans, the Babylonians, and just like we are today, with our supercomputers and space the tools change. But the fundamental curiosity, that AOE, that need to understand, that's a constant. It's a thread that weaves through all of humanity, across every continent and every era. What the Nubian story so beautifully illustrates is that scientific brilliance isn't owned by any one culture or any one part of the world. It has blossomed in every corner of the globe, and forms as unique and diverse as the cultures that birthed them. For too long, we've been told a very narrow story of scientific progress, one that often starts in Europe and overlooks the incredible contributions from places like Africa, Asia, and the Americas. The sophisticated skywatching of the Nubians, is a powerful reminder that the pursuit of knowledge is a global, collective, human endeavor. Their astronomy wasn't just about plotting points of light. It was woven into the fabric of their society, their religion, their architecture, and their daily lives. Their science had a soul. It was a holistic way of understanding their connection to the cosmos, and there's a profound lesson in that for us. In our modern world, we sometimes separate science from art, from spirituality, from culture. The Nubians show us that these things don't have to be separate. They can enrich and inform one another, creating a much richer, more complete picture of our reality. They remind us that there are many ways of knowing, many paths to understanding. By bringing their legacy out of the shadows, we're not just adding a new chapter to the history of science. We are expanding our very definition of what science is and who gets to be a scientist. We are celebrating the diversity of human intellect and creativity. It's an acknowledgement that every culture has something valuable to contribute to our shared human story. The light from those ancient Nubian stars, tracked so carefully thousands of years ago, is finally reaching us in its full brilliance. It is illuminating a past we didn't know we had, and brightening the path to a more inclusive, more curious, and more connected future. Let's keep looking up, and let's keep learning together. We reclaim a legacy that was almost lost to time and bring modern insights to these ancient skies. For centuries, we've looked at the magnificent structures left behind by early civilizations and called them tombs, temples, or fortresses. But what if they were something more? What if these massive stone monuments were, in fact, the world's first notebooks? Giant, unyielding pages of stone, meticulously designed to capture the movements of the sun, the moon, and the stars. Think about it. These weren't just final resting places for kings and pharaohs. They were dynamic, interactive calendars, observatorios, and libraries of celestial knowledge. Each alignment, each shadow cast on a solstice, each window perfectly framing a rising constellation. These were not accidents. They were deliberate records, observations etched into the very landscape. For example, at Nubian in Ireland, a monument older than the pyramids, a single shaft of light pierces the inner chamber only on the winter solstice. This wasn't just for show. It was a precise astronomical event, a way to mark the turning of the year, to know when winter's grip would begin to loosen and spring would eventually return. This was crucial information for survival, for agriculture, for the very rhythm of life. These structures were a conversation with the cosmos, a way for ancient people to understand their place in the universe. They were using the sky as a clock and a compass, and their monuments were the tools they built to read it. These were not primitive people, simply looking up in wonder. They were scientists, engineers, and astronomers, conducting long-term studies and encoding their findings in stone for future generations. This perspective completely changes how we view our ancestors. It elevates them from being just builders of tombs to being pioneers of science. Their legacy is not just one of death and the afterlife, but one of life, observation, and a profound intellectual curiosity. They were charting the heavens long before the written word became common, using a universal language of light, shadow, and stone. Their monuments are a testament to a deep, shared human impulse to look up, to question, and to understand. It's a powerful realization that connects us directly to them. Across thousands of years, we still look at the same sky, ask the same fundamental questions, and feel that same sense of awe. The story of these ancient sky watchers challenges us to rethink the history of science itself. We often learn about a very specific, linear path of discovery, one that typically starts with the Greeks and moves through Europe. But the evidence from these ancient sites tells a different story. It reveals a rich, diverse, and global tapestry of human ingenuity. Discovery wasn't confined to one culture or one continent. All over the world, from the Americas to Africa, from Europe to Asia, people were independently observing the sky and developing sophisticated systems to understand it. This wasn't a single, monolithic history of science, but many histories, each unique and brilliant in its own right. Appreciating this diversity is crucial. It shows us that the quest for knowledge is a universal human trait. It forces us to look beyond the traditional canon, to seek out the stories that have been overlooked or misinterpreted. By recognizing the astronomical genius of these ancient cultures, We don't diminish the achievements of later scientists. Instead, we enrich the human story. We see that the journey of discovery is a vast, interconnected web, with threads stretching back to the very dawn of civilization. It's a story we are all a part of. So, what do you see when you look up at the night sky? A vast, dark canvas, sprinkled with twinkling lights, the familiar shapes of the Big Dipper or Orion's belt. For thousands of years, humanity has gazed at this same celestial theater, but not everyone has seen the same show. We often hear about the Greeks, the Romans, the Babylonians, and their contributions to astronomy. But what about the brilliant minds from the heart of Africa? Let's journey back in time to the land of Nubia, a powerful civilization that flourished along the Nile, just south of ancient Egypt. The Nubians were not just pyramid builders and fierce warriors. They were master astronomers. Long before telescopes, they were meticulously charting the heavens. Imagine standing under the vast, clear African sky, night after night, with nothing but your own keen eyes and a deep understanding of cyclical patterns. They tracked the movements of stars and planets with incredible precision. Why? Because for them, the sky was not just a beautiful spectacle. It was a clock, a calendar, and a sacred map. The star Sirius, which they called Saptut, was particularly important. Its annual appearance just before dawn heralded the life-giving flood of the Nile River. This wasn't just a fun fact. It was crucial for their survival. Knowing when the floods would come meant knowing when to plant their crops, ensuring a bountiful harvest for their people. Their entire agricultural cycle was written in the stars. They built their temples and pyramids to align perfectly with celestial events, like the solstices. These structures weren't just tombs or places of worship. They were cosmic observatories, connecting the earthly realm with the divine. So, the next time you find yourself looking up at a clear night sky, take a moment to remember the Nubian astronomers. Remember these masters who, from the heart of Africa, mapped the cosmos with nothing but keen eyes, patient minds, and an unwavering belief